Hey there, everybody. I hope you are doing well. I'm checking in with you on this Monday morning, the 23rd of March. Yeah, always a lot to get to. A favor I want to ask of you all, especially those of you who have been with me for a while. I thank you so very much. I'd like your opinion. Please drop a comment. Many of you know I thank you for the hypes and all of that. Please like and subscribe. Continue to do so, especially if you're just landing on the channel. I'm a Fefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. And I do mostly political readings, but especially for my membership, I do astrological readings and more spiritually oriented readings as well. I'm a former newspaper journalist years ago. And again, in case you're just landing on the channel and not familiar with me, so my readings are spiritual, but also, I tend to approach things from that sort of try to get the facts straight, perspective. So again, I appreciate your presence here, trying to grow the channel. And I've had a lot of feedback from people who are saying some of the challenges around this kind of content, especially in the spiritual realm, the tarot and other methods. So I am thinking about, please leave me your comment. I've been doing tapings on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But I'm thinking about doing shorter tapings and doing them each day. I've had several people come to me and say, probably could grow the channel a little faster if I had content more consistently every day, like Monday to Friday. So, how would you like that if I did shorter videos, maybe 15, 20 minutes daily rather than the 3 times a week? I'd be interested in your feedback on that. I really appreciate your time. All right. All right. That's it. Let's look at this TSA situation. So we know ICE is being deployed at they're cherry picking which airports there's a lot of news coverage around the fact that many of these airports are in not necessarily blue states, as in Georgia with Atlanta, but definitely blue cities. And lots of questions around, nobody's answered. Tom Homan, nobody's really answering what exactly ICE is supposed to be doing. They're not trained. We understand as of this morning, the latest figures that I saw are about 30% at least. That's a low end estimate of TSA agents that are calling out, especially at some of these major airports: Atlanta, Houston, New York, both LaGuardia and JFK, and other airports around the country, Phoenix, etc. So there's no plan. Like, these TSA agents are not going to train ICE agents, and they're not getting paid. But we're also understanding, I did not know this, maybe you did, this TSA situation, takeover, essentially, for entertainment purposes only, right? Uh, was a part of Project 2025. Did you know that? I just learned that this was a part of Project 2025. The idea was to basically take over TSA by privatizing it, but in order to do that, they had to weaken the unions, right? And that's what we see is happening. So I want to go to Spirit for us and see what, get some more insight around that. If in fact this is a part of the plan all along, and how far they're going to pursue this. Understanding as well that Trump told Congress this weekend, do not make a deal on DHS, TSA, but the DHS partial shutdown. Do not make a deal on that unless you get this vote through on the Voting Act, right? The Suppression Act. He's calling it the SAVE Act, but the Voter Suppression Act. If you can't get that deal on that, do not make a deal on DHS funding. We also know that as of this weekend, March 28th through April 12th, Congress is scheduled to be on a 2-week recess. Really? Really? Spirit, please show me the outcome of this TSA situation. Is this a concerted effort to basically take over travel, airport travel, and potentially deport people? Like, what's the real game here? What's happening? Is Congress going to bail? Essentially, is Congress going to bail And will this continue for the foreseeable future, at least through April? Bottom of the deck is the Hierophant. That's government. That's my card for government and government structures. So this is, I feel like Spirit is saying this is a concerted effort by the government. This was a part of Project 2025. We've seen so many instances of different elements that were in the Project 2025 that this administration has been going down the line to implement this. Spirit, please show me. I'm going to do a Celtic cross. So we have the Queen of Cups coming, crossing the Hierophant. The Nine of Pentacles below. The Tower in the recent past. I'll show you these cards as well. The Three of Pentacles up above it. In the near future, Spirit. The Six of Pentacles. The Three of Cups. This is the holidays that are approaching. The Seven of Pentacles. The Queen of Wands. And the Hopes and Fears. And Temperance is the outcome. This is not coming to a resolution anytime soon. And I think with all of those pentacles that we saw, Queen of Cups came and crossed the Hierophant. I think that is speaking collectively to an energy around, there is someone within the administration that recognizes the harm that's being done by the government, outwardly showing, tipping its hand, essentially Trump tipping his hand and saying, I don't care about the inconvenience and the potential inefficiency and dangers of what's happening at the airports. I want what I want around the Voting Rights Act. There's somebody around him that's feeding him that information. I've got the Ten of Wands that crosses that Three of Pentacles that was at the top. So like what's overseeing this energy? There's the bow breaks is what Spirit just said to me. The bow is going to break in terms of airport functionality. Spirit, are we going to see an actual, that makes me wonder, that Ten of Wands, things become untenable. Like more agents, more TSA agents saying, that's it then, we're not going to do it. We're not going to show up. Spirit, is there going to be a shutdown? Are we going to see airports start shutting down as a result of this? The Two of Cups, I feel like that's a timing element within the, if Congress goes forward with this 2-week break, which it looks like they will, that's when you're going to see, I just heard almost obliteration, and I want to be careful in using that kind of word, but it's like the way the system, the security system at airports has worked, done, at least during that time. And the Six of Swords, a plan to move forward out of it, because people need to fly. Like the bottom line is we especially on the domestic level, that's where they're really emphasizing this. And an Eight of Cups. I think what's happening, you all, what Spirit is showing us here is, remember, at the bottom of the staff, what all this is sitting on is the Nine of Pentacles. That is money that airlines are potentially going to lose, at least in new bookings. Now, a lot of them are probably going to have to scramble as people cancel flights and say, that's it, I've had enough. They're going to offer credits, but still, this is impacting their ability to get bookings at airlines. I also wonder if that's part of what this Queen of Cups is coming out. I think we're going to see someone on behalf of airlines. We know the CEOs of many airlines already wrote a letter to this administration, I guess last week or so, I think it was, saying, hey, this is bad for business. Like, do something. Six of Pentacles in the near future position. That's negotiation or potential for negotiation, offers being made. Spirit, is this an some sort of deal with ICE? King of Pentacles. That's the transportation secretary and the star. So he's going to buy time. The transportation secretary, what's his name? Duffy. Um, he's going to try and buy time to continue to explain the role of, that's that negotiation, the role of ICE agents, because they're not at all airports, and we know that. And that's part of the dichotomy we're seeing here is, on the one hand, there is this tremendous disruption at certain airports, but not at others. So it's not like a nationwide grinding things to a halt, but just enough at these major airports. The Star is saying there's going to be an effort by the transportation secretary to justify cooperation with TSA agents and ICE. But ultimately, remember, our outcome card was temperance. That's a change. That's a fundamental shift and change, and a duality between what has traditionally and professionally been the role of TSA. Spirit, is this also about pacifying the administration while I want to get my words right. It feels like part of what Duffy, I think is his name, the transportation secretary, what he's doing is trying to pacify Trump, who is saying, I don't care about a deal being made, while being responsible, Eight of Pentacles being responsible to travel. Because ultimately, this could backfire on him as well, dereliction of duty. Three of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles. There's a movement here where people are not going to go along with the implementation of the destruction, essentially, of the function of the TSA. That's the bottom line. And that is where the transportation secretary comes into play as well, because clearly that's his whole function. He has to find a way to appear to pacify Trump, while also there's this stress to keep the airports open. Spirit, are we going to see a resolution by the end of April? Will we see a resolution to this by the end of April? Five of Cups. Knight of Wands. That's not by the end of April. That's still a struggle. And I get the Knight of Wands is a continued, like, people getting really fired up about this. Wow. The Page of Pentacles, new offers being made, and the Eight of Swords. This is the agents being impacted, and the Hermit. Spirit, is the TSA are agents going to actually strike? This is almost feeling like a strike, because remember, the Hermit is a card also of, okay, you don't want to work with me, I'll just step back. I'll go it alone. I'll go my own way. This is continued resignations, and so it goes from absences of TSA agents not reporting to work to actual resignations, is how that feels to me. Spirit, are we going to see a strike by the TSA? Will they get fed up to the point where they just walk away? The Ten of Swords. This blows up tremendously in this administration's face. And Judgment. There it is. The long range, two things are happening here in Judgment. Judgment is a card very often of they call it a card of second chances, but it's also a card of lessons learned. And I think that in this case, it's lessons learned the hard way. That between the resignation I'm hearing, not just TSA agents not showing up for work, but then saying, that's it, I'm out of here. You're sending ICE agents in to do the job that I'm supposed to train them. there's going to be a lot of resignations in some of the busiest airports. The thing that is keeping this from completely collapsing, you all, is the fact that it's not happening at all airports. It is at these major hubs, especially where they know uh, there are a majority blue states or blue cities within those states and structures. But that judgment says this is going to blow up spectacularly. You're going to see actual resignations, not just, and perhaps even a boycott like TSA Union. Ace of Swords. I was waiting for Ace. I had to dig for it today. For those of you new to the channel, that is one way my spirit guides speak to me. If I get an Ace, Spirit says I'm on the right track. Ace in Swords, no less. Communications, decision making, decisiveness around this issue. So that's another reason that we saw that energy around the transportation secretary of trying to scramble to basically serve two masters. He wants to keep Trump happy, but he also recognizes his entire job, his entire structure is on the brink of collapse. And I think you're going to see the union get involved because there will be, Spirit just said, like mass exodus of at these busier airports of agents that simply say, that's it, I'm not going to do it anymore. So this plan was in place to privatize airport security, part of Project 2025. But what it would take to do that, this total implosion of the TSA in order to implement that in an election year where the stakes are that high, y'all, no. But also, keeping it real with you, certainly through the month of April, it's about to get fugly. It's about to get fugly in April, you all. All right. The other thing I wanted to take a look at today, we're hearing now that, Trump has said, okay, there's a 5-day, we're going to chill out for 5 days and continue with what he is saying. Trump claimed over the weekend were some very successful talks, potential agreements to, cease the war with Iran. And according to international news sources like BBC, Reuters, others, they're like, the Iranian officials are coming out saying, we haven't talked to anybody. And we said, after this all happened, we said, we're not talking to you anymore because we were in talks when this started. We were in negotiations when this started. There have been reports that there were concessions that Iran was making when this all started. So they're coming out and saying, we haven't talked to him. We don't even know what that's about. That's not just simply not true. But here's the thing. So the interesting what Iran has done. They said that their intention was not to go at Middle Eastern countries, right? They were like, you're not our issue. That's not what we're trying to do. But strategically, they had to backtrack on that because they're recognizing their way to stand their ground, if you will, is to deal with energy, specifically in the Middle East. Now, Qatar provides I think it's like 1/3 of the world's helium. Helium is a major component for the medical industries for MRI machines. We're learning. I heard about this. I read about it in Raw Story and did some other verification around it. So here's the deal, y'all. Qatar, in addition to other Middle Eastern countries, has had to halt production or is preparing to halt production of helium, which means that the furnishing of helium around, they're saying that memos have gone around to hospitals around the globe, but particularly here in the U.S., including Walter Reed, that guess what? You ain't going to be able to do MRIs because this major source of energy, helium, now Qatar is in bad shape with that, right? I'm also getting that. Remember, Qatar and Kushner and this whole administration, they're supposed to be like this. The jet, let's not even talk about the jet situation, that free luxury jet, whatever happened with that. But either way, the deals that have been made in the Middle East with Kushner, with the Trump family, with Witkoff, etc. Qatar is sitting there going, hold up. You just jacked us. You got us in the middle of something that is now jacking up our flow, jacking up our money, right? So I want to see if that factored into what Trump is selling as a potential. That's why he's called a 5-day, like, okay, we got to chill out for 5 days, saying that there are negotiations when there are not. Spirit, is this Qatar and the UAE, Saudi Arabia, is this the Middle East putting the heat on Kushner and Witkoff and Trump because now they're losing money? The emperor comes at the bottom of the deck. Trump in the hot seat. This is also the leaders of these Arab leaders. They're like, wait a minute. Because remember as well, in the energy of the emperor, this is about protecting what you own. This is about running your stuff. This is about your business, your money, your land. So the idea that Iran said, okay, if this is what we got to do, sorry, y'all, but we're going to have to come for your energy. We got the Queen of Wands comes back. I really want to know who that is. Any suggestions, please leave in the comments. Because so much of this is driven masculine. Spirit is saying this is an energy, not necessarily a person. Remember, when queens in tarot come, they very often represent the giving nature of the element. Queen of Wands is the ability to support people's energy needs, wands, fire, energy needs, and they're playing games with that, and also creative solutions or creative strategies to fight back. And that's what we've seen in Iran. They're like, okay, we may not have enough long-range missiles to really do this, but we got some strategy here that we can. And here's the Three of Swords. This is the impact of the financial harm that this will do to these Middle Eastern countries that did not see this coming, and where we know Kushner et al., have made all these investments and thinking we're all going to get paid like gravy. Spirit, is this pullback now from Trump a result of these Middle Eastern leaders putting down the hammer and saying, now you costing us money. Here comes death. They're saying, you better stop this. You better stop this. We ain't got nothing to do. You and Bibi Netanyahu, whatever. But now you're costing us. Page of Cups, you better come up with something new. Spirit, King of Swords. That this is feeling like Kushner, Witkoff, whatever, trying to put out some fires. Spirit, has this damaged? Two questions. One is, will this impact healthcare, hospitals in the country with MRIs and whatever other needs that they use for helium? Are we going to see a prolonged impact? Two of Cups. And the Nine of Cups. The flow of this resource, and the Three of Wands. Yes. At least I'm getting a time frame here. At least over the next several months, you all, there's going to be a problem with the supply of this. Now, Qatar doesn't produce all of the world's helium, but they are a major, I think a third. They are a major resource for this energy. So over the next 2 to 3 months, the flow of that is going to be definitely impacted. And that's what he does not, Trump cannot afford to have happen. The Hangman. How do we stop this? How do we that 5 day pause, right? Pause in the Hangman, this 5 day pause, that is a lot. Spirit is confirming. That is what prompted it. You've got Qatar in particular, but also these other Middle Eastern leaders who are saying, hey, enough already. This we did not enter this, we did not agree to this. This should not land at our doorstep. And the 3 of Cups, I feel like that is Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. They're talking amongst themselves and the world. Do what you got to do, because this has world global impact. And I'm getting, it is about the money. It is about the flow of money, but it's also about what they're feeling like is a almost like a betrayal. You did this. We know there was never a plan. We're being, widely reported, it was never a plan, never a strategy, never an exit strategy, never an entrance strategy. But now they are paying the price for that. And so there is definitely a demand to for them to figure out, hey, if you got to pull out and even say, Spirit is, if I'm going to come out and say, essentially, we reached an agreement, all is well, whether or not any of that is real, just to get this thing done. 8 of Pentacles. They're trying to scramble really hard, you all, to figure out a way to say things have come to an end, to a resolution that looks victorious. Uh, but now, and the King of Pentacles. Yeah, That's the plan. They're using this 5 day pause to say, okay, Qatar, Middle Eastern leaders, we hear you. We know this has gotten, we're not trying to harm you. We don't want to see that. We got too much invested in you, and we don't want you to get PO'd at us enough that you start messing back with our investments there, right? All of this comes down to money, and so that's the scramble that they're doing right now to try and work out a deal. 8 of Pentacles. But Ace of Pentacles. Okay, so I'm right on, we're on track with that. Staying in Pentacles, 8 of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, this, all right? So this is the money, this is the resources, this is the stop, figure out a way, even if that means you got to say you won and you got what you wanted, but you didn't. But here's my question. Is Iran going to accept that? Are they going, when Trump slows this down and it says, okay, we got what we wanted, is Iran going to stop at that point? Will they stop? 7 of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles, and the Temperance card. I think they will, because it's harmful to them as well. We know Tehran is it's bad. I think they will, but it won't be immediate. They're going to assess their options, essentially. That's also why we have Temperance there. They're going to assess their options, but they're also going to use Trump's however it gets spun, that we got what we needed, so now we're out. They're going to use that to try and extract some form of what will become a deal, because they need some sort of assurances that this will not continue to happen again. Okay, you stopped now because Middle Eastern leaders said you had to, or this has gone too far. But are you going to? What assurances do we have that will continue? And I just got the Devil, exactly, because they don't trust him. So even when it stops, it ain't really going to stop, is essentially what I think Spirit is saying here, you all. And I don't think that means that Iran is going to continue to drones or missiles or other things, but the potential for it. And the Strait of Hormuz, there it is, the Strait of Hormuz. Will they continue to close or keep closed the Strait of Hormuz until they get some sort of assurances? Is that what I'm seeing, Spirit? Knight of Pentacles, That's the ships in the strait and the magician. There we have it. That's their calling card, right? Because we known all along that was the ace up their sleeve, around sleeve, is the Strait of Hormuz. So until they get some assurances around that, the magician, that they're going to be safe, that's their negotiating tactic. Is That's why we got temperance as well, and that's why we got the devil as well, because the bottom line is we got this. We got control over this strait one way or another. And unless you can assure us that you're not going to continue to do what you did, surprise basis or otherwise, then we're still in the game. You can continue to say you've pulled out all you want, but we're still in the game. That's what I think Spirit is showing us, you all. All right. That's what I got for today. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. I appreciate it. Trying to grow the channel. Having some success, but it's just been really, really slow. I've got people saying they got unsubscribed suddenly. Others that are saying, it's not coming up in their feed. So, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, but I really do appreciate your help with the hyping, with, hitting that like button. And all of those things help the algorithm as well. And let me know what you think about me coming on a daily basis, maybe doing it a little bit shorter than I did today. Okay. Yeah, I did. I went a little longer than I intended to today. I'll work on that, the lengthwise, but let me know your thoughts on that. I really appreciate you being here. Chin up, shoulders back. We got a lot of things coming leading up to Saturday, the No Kings protest. I'll definitely be looking into that energy this week as well. All right. Chin up, shoulders back, staying deep breaths and staying in your heart. Remembering the sky is above you, angels, source, ground is beneath you, earth is beneath you, holding you, supporting you, solid. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.